Alright, race fans, we're back. As you can see, we're here in San Diego, California. And I just did a test drive and the carb won't idle after it warms up. So we're going to see what that is. I'm part of the San Diego air-cooled VWs here in sunny San Diego. Step one is we are going to take the carburetor off. So, first thing I usually do is I take off the air cleaner. You can just twist it off and then disconnect your choke. I just put this to the side over here, my air filter. Disconnect this idle cutoff valve, I think it's called. Can you see that? I think you can see that. This is the idle cutoff valve right here. So I disconnected that. I disconnected the choke. I disconnected the choke wire. It's right here. Then you got to disconnect your throttle cable. So that's this one right here. And after you've disconnected those things, you take off these two bolts. So I'm going to do that next. Alright, so we're going to take off the throttle cable. This is an 8mm socket, and just loosen this up. Don't take it out all the way because then you could lose the screw. It just needs to loosen, and then you can pull out the throttle cable. To take off,
what was the throttle cable?
To take off this bolt right here, where my finger's pointing at, there's two of these. So take that off. That's a 13mm. It's a 13mm wrench. So take that off. Remember the bolt's upside down, so you gotta go this way. Once you get it a little bit loose, you can turn it off with your finger, and then because there's a washer, you don't want to drop that in there. Working with grease and oil and gasoline, and that stuff makes your hands smell like gas all day. So you're gonna be having lunch later. It's better to just put some gloves on so you don't have to worry about your food tasting like gasoline. So get yourself some of these gloves. They have a box of them, 50 of them for like $10 at Harbor Freight. That's where I got these ones. And these I think are like the 7mm thickness, so they don't rip as easy. They're still pretty cheap though, because they ripped the other day when I was trying to put on my pair. I just ripped it trying to put them on. Okay, so to get to the back screw, I take off my distributor cap. I take my distributor cap off because it makes it easier for me to get back in there, because the bolt's way in the back. And like my assistant said, I should tell everybody that you should turn it counterclockwise. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm using the box end of the 13mm wrench. It allows you to get it on there and give it a turn, so you can loosen it up. So once you get it a little bit loose, you can take it off with your fingers. And remember, there's a washer there, so don't drop it. So don't drop the washer in there. I did that yesterday and I couldn't find my washer. Alright, so I take it, put it right here. Oh, one last thing to disconnect is the fuel line, which is up here on top of the carburetor. You could twist it off with your hand. And then just put it up like that so the fuel doesn't come out. And that's everything for the carburetor, so I can take it off now. There's a gasket there, save that gasket.
Where's the gasket?
It's right here. So I just rebuilt my carburetor, and this is a brand new gasket, so I'm going to reuse it. You can see how clean my carburetor is. It looks like I'm leaking gas from somewhere though. I'll check this to see if it's loose, but it's pretty sure it's tight.
When it fails.
So what I think it is there's a check valve inside here. It has a little bearing, a little ball inside that I need to take off and make sure it's not getting stuck. I think that's why my idle is not working. So we'll do that. We'll do that next. My assistant, aka my wifey, says that I should warn you guys because there's going to be gas in the float bowl, and when you take it off you could spill gas all over the place. So if you keep it straight up, should be okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this cover off right here. There's gas in here because I just got finished driving it, and there's gas inside here. So I'm going to take this cover off. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts, flathead. So take that off. Alright, so I got the screws loosened up and I'll be able to take the top half off, but you have to disconnect the spring over here on this side. So you just do that. Leave it hanging on there on that side. So now I have the 5 screws off. You can take off the top half of the carburetor. Just leave it there. There's the screws. You can see I just got finished driving this. The float bowl is full of gas, and there's a little test that you can do to see if your gas is shooting correctly. So there's this tube here, and when you give the car gas, the gas comes out of there. So if you want to see if that's working correctly, you can go like this. You can see the gas shooting out of there. It's kind of hard to see because it's clear, but when I give it, it's squirting gas. And that's what you want. And you want it to squirt down there, and you want it to hit the butterfly at the bottom. If you imagine that it's split in half, there's a shaft that goes to the middle, so there's 2 halves of the butterfly. You want it to hit one side. So you want this thing to, looks like it's almost perfectly straight. You don't want it to hit this. You want it to go straight past that down to the bottom. So that's working good, and I have a bunch of gas in here. I gotta take this gas out. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off this little black thing here. It's a piece of plastic that holds it in there. And then you have your float, and it's called a float because it's floating in the gasoline. That's this. And there's a little shaft in there. See that? Shaft. So keep that in there. If it falls out, you can just slide it back in. And you can see all the gas inside my float bowl. So I got to pour that out, and I'll show you what I'm going to do next.